Any software engineer or developer needs to master object-oriented programming well because of its importance and its many advantages in the software industry. So we have created this course for you to learn all the important concepts of this type of programming with many practical examples in depth. In this course you will learn object-oriented programming in Python. Object-oriented programming concepts include objects, classes, properties, behaviors, encapsulation, polymorphism, inheritance with different types of inheritance, abstracting data in an object-oriented style, and many more. Python is an object-oriented programming language. It's very popular, has many advantages, and has a strong presence in all areas of software. In addition to being easy to learn, read and understand in a short time. And once you complete this course, you will have learned all the concepts of object-oriented programming with application programs and many exercises. And you will be able to use and apply the object-oriented programming with ease and understanding to create high professional programs quickly and efficiently. We are here always to help and support you all the times. This course only requires knowledge of the basics of the Python programming language. What are the tools do we need in this course to complete it without any complication? Before starting this course, we need some tools. First of all, we need the Python language itself. So you can download the install launcher for this language from the official page or the official website for this language. And from it you can download the latest version of the Python programming language, and after that you can install this language easily on your device. And the Python programming language is a cross-platform language, so you can download it for any operating system. So don't worry about the operating system which you are using. You can download the install launcher for any operating system, Windows, Linux, macOS, and so on. After that, we need a working environment for the Python programming language or workplace to type, edit, debug, test, and run our programs in the Python programming language easily without any complication. So you need a text editor for the Python programming language, or you can use any IDE, integrated development environment like PyCharm, or you can use the Jupyter Notebook. And to install the Jupyter Notebook on your device, the easiest way to do that is by installing the Anaconda toolkit. You can download the Anaconda distribution from the official page for this distribution or this software. The Anaconda toolkit comes with the Jupyter Notebook, and with the Jupyter Notebook you can code with the Python programming language easily. It's a very powerful tool. But in this course we are gonna use the Visual Studio Code Editor. This is a very powerful code editor to code with the Python programming language, and also it's a powerful editor for other programming languages such as JavaScript and many others. And to download the install launcher for the Visual Studio Code Editor, you can go to the official page for it. And once you go to the official website for this code editor, you can download it for any operating system which you are using. It's a cross-platform code editor, so you can download the install launcher, and after that you can install it easily on your device. And I will show you how to install Python and also how to install the Visual Studio Code Editor on your device. It's very easy and simple. It's open source, free to use code editor. That's all about the tools you need to complete this course without any complication. Thank you so much for watching. Hello and welcome to this lesson. In this lesson we are gonna be discussing some useful tips for downloading the Python programming language locally on our device before doing that practically. As we said previously, to work with the Python programming language, you need to download the installer or the install launcher for the Python programming language, and you can do that easily. On the search engine box, just type download Python, and after that you can go to the official page for downloading the installer for this language easily. And you can go to the Python programming language official page or official website by using the website link directly without any need to type download Python on the search box or anything like that. Try to use the URL directly for that website to save your precious time. Whatever the operating system you are using, you can work with the Python programming language easily and in no time, also efficiently. You can work with the Python programming language on any operating system you are using. It's a cross-platform language, so you can download the install launcher as we said previously for any operating system you are using. So it's a very powerful language. In the python.org official website for the Python programming language, there is a reference for that language, a complete reference. So if you want to get information or knowledge about any Python concept, you will find this reference is very useful for you. In this course, we are gonna work with the latest version of the Python programming language. So if you wanna download the latest version of the Python programming language, you will find a yellow button on the downloads page. And this is the easiest way to download the latest version of the Python programming language. Suppose we want to download specific release of Python. You can do that easily from the python.org official website also. If you wanna download the install launcher for any previous version of the Python programming language or specific release, you can do that easily for any operating system you are using. So no problem here. After hitting the yellow button or downloading any specific release of the Python programming language, just wait the download process to complete, and after that you can install the Python programming language locally on your device by double-clicking on the install launcher for this language, and you can install it easily, and I'm gonna show you how to do that correctly without any complication. Thank you so much for watching. See you again next lesson. Welcome back. In this lesson, we are gonna be discussing some useful steps for installing the Python programming language locally on our device. This is a theoretical lesson, and don't worry about installing the Python programming language. These are some useful steps, but I'll show you how to install it practically on your device without any complication. The first step is double-clicking on the install launcher after downloading it on your device. You can add Python to path to make the Python programming language works everywhere on your device. And this step is the first step after finding the pop-up window for installing the Python programming language. Try to add Python to path to avoid getting errors if you code with the Python programming language locally. And after that, you will start the installation process easily without any complication, and just wait the installing process to complete. Then after installing this language correctly on your device, open the command prompt or the command line or the integrated terminal and check the Python version by typing python --version and hit enter, and you will see the latest version of this language installed correctly on your device. And also you can use the Python prompt on the command line to test coding with this language. Just on the command prompt on the operating system you are using, command prompt or terminal, type Python and hit enter or return, and this will open the Python prompt, so you can type, edit, execute any Python code directly on the command prompt or terminal without any complication. And this is a very useful way if you wanna code with the Python programming language or test any Python code directly and quickly. But if you wanna create real Python programs, you need a text editor and IDE to create Python scripts or Python files for your programs. Also, don't worry about all of that. I'll show you all of that practically in this course. So we have a lot to cover in this course practically. Thank you so much for watching. See you again next lesson. Welcome back. In this lesson we are gonna be discussing some useful steps for installing the Visual Studio Code Editor, our working environment in this course. This is a very powerful code editor. You need to download the install launcher for the Visual Studio Code Editor to install it locally on your device without any complication, and this is a very easy process. So you need to download the installer for any operating system you are using. Just in the search box or in any search engine, just type download VS Code or download the Visual Studio Code Editor. Or you can go to the official website for downloading this powerful tool or powerful code editor directly by using the direct link for this page without any need to type download VS Code on the search engine or anything like that. This is to save your precious time also. Visual Studio Code Editor is a very powerful, easy to use, free and open source code editor, so you can download and install it for free for any operating system you are using. It's a cross-platform code editor. You can use it for many programming languages, not only the Python programming language, but also for other programming languages such as JavaScript and many more. Also, after downloading the install launcher for the Visual Studio Code Editor, you need to double click on the install launcher or the installer file. Then the installation process for the Visual Studio Code Editor will be started easily. You will find up a pop-up window for installing this code editor locally on your device without any complication. And after that, after installing the Visual Studio Code Editor locally on your device, you need to install the Python extension from the Extensions tab on the Visual Studio Code Editor. And don't worry about all of that. I'll show you all of that practically in this course. Some useful steps for downloading and installing this powerful code editor theoretically. Thank you so much for watching. See you again next lesson. Hello and welcome to this lesson about downloading the install launcher of the Python programming language locally on your device. The first step you need to do to follow up this course is downloading and installing the Python programming language locally on your device to start coding with this language. And you can download the install launcher of the Python programming language easily from the official home of the Python programming language, from the python.org official page for this language. Let me show you that in action. Use this URL python.org/downloads and this will bring you to this official page for downloading the latest version of the Python programming language for any operating system you are using. Python is a cross-platform language, so don't worry about that. You can download the Python programming language or the install launcher for this language for any operating system you are using. In this downloads page, you will find out this yellow button here to download the latest version of the Python programming language, and the latest version of Python is Python 3.10.5. You can download and install this version on your device to follow up this course easily. If you wanna download the install launcher for this language for any operating system, you can do that easily by using the downloads tab. You can download the install launcher for Windows, Mac OS or other platforms. As we said before, this language is a cross-platform language, so it will work on any operating system you are using. It's also useful in this official website is that it contains an official documentation for the Python programming language. So if you want any information about any concept or function in the Python programming language, you will find it on this official documentation. So it's very useful. Also, if you wanna download any specific release or old version of the Python programming language, you can easily download it from this official page here. Well, let's start working and download the latest version of Python by using this yellow button from here. Once you press this yellow button, you will see that the download has started, and wait for the download to finish and then start the installation process. In the previous lesson, we saw how to download the install launcher of the Python programming language, and in this lesson I am gonna show you how to install this language locally on your device. After successfully downloading the Python installer on your device, double click the installer file to launch the setup. You will see pop-up window and start the installation process. The first step is adding Python to path to make the Python programming language accessible everywhere on your device to avoid getting errors. And after successfully installing this language, I'm gonna show you how to verify or check the latest version of this language by using the command prompt or terminal. Let's get started. Once you have chosen and downloaded the appropriate installer version for Python, open the install launcher using double clicking, and you will find a pop-up window to install Python locally on your device. As you can see, the first thing we did as soon as we saw this pop-up window was we check add Python 3.10 to path to make this language accessible anywhere on our device. So make sure to check add Python 3.10 to path. After that, you can install the Python programming language easily by hitting install now. Well, once the Python installation is completed, pop-up window will appear with a setup was successfully message, exactly as you can see here. Hit close and Python should now be installed on your device. Now we need to verify Python installation. So you can use the command prompt or terminal and type the command python -- version to check the version installed on your device. After hitting enter or return, you will find the version of Python. You can see the version installed is Python 3.105. Also, you can use the command prompt or terminal to open the Python prompt to check any Python code here without any complication. Just use the command python and hit enter or return, and this will open the Python prompt to start coding with the Python programming language for fast coding here. Once you type Python and hit enter or return, you will see on the first line Python 3.105, the version installed on our device, and you will see also the prompt symbol 3 symbol. After that, you can use any Python code. You can type and execute any Python code by hitting enter or return. The Python prompt symbol means it's something the computer displays to tell you it's ready for your instructions. So you can type any Python code and hit enter to get the output. This is very handy for trying out things quickly. But you need to write programs with tens, hundreds, and maybe thousands of lines of code. The Python prompt or shell is not an appropriate place for writing large programs. Python, like every other programming language, allows you to put the code you write into a file and save it. Programs saved this way can be opened at any time and run without having to retype them. So you need a text editor or IDE, and in this course we are gonna use the Visual Studio Code Editor. It's free and powerful code editor to start coding with the Python programming language easily. The working environment in this course is the Visual Studio Code Editor. It's free and open source editor to facilitate the process of writing and implementing any Python code. You can download the install launcher for this code editor easily from the official page for the Visual Studio Code Editor. After downloading the install launcher or the installer file for the Visual Studio Code Editor, just double click the installer file to launch the setup, and the setup process is very easy. Let me show you that. To go to the official page for downloading the Visual Studio Code editor, just use this URL from here and hit enter or return, and this will bring you to this official website for downloading the Visual Studio Code editor for any operating system you are using. You can use the Visual Studio Code editor for Windows, Linux and Mac OS. Feel free to download it for any operating system you are using. Now we are gonna download it for the Windows operating system. So you can click on this button from here to download it for the Windows operating system. And once the download process is complete, you can install it locally on your device easily without any complication. Double click the installer file and start the installation process easily. It's very easy process, exactly as you can see here. And after installing the Visual Studio Code editor, you can hit finish to close this pop-up window and launch the Visual Studio Code editor on your device. Once you open the Visual Studio Code editor, you can use any suitable theme from here. For example, light or dark or any theme you wish from here. We are gonna use the dark theme. To use the Visual Studio Code editor for programming in the Python programming language, you first need to install the Python extension. So go to the extensions tab and search for the Python extension to start using the Visual Studio Code editor to code with the Python programming language. This extension has many features for the Python coding, such as linting, debugging, code navigation, code formatting, refactoring, and many more. So install it before coding with the Python programming language with the Visual Studio Code editor. You can also install any extension that you find useful from the extensions tab. For example, you can install the Visual Studio Code icons, for example, or any extension you find useful. Also, when you download the working files folder that contains all the exercises and files for this course, you can open it through using this open folder button here. Just press this open folder button and then you can open the working files folder from the place where you downloaded it. That's all about it. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Thank you so much for watching. See you again next lesson. Hello and welcome to this lesson. Let's discuss the meaning of object-oriented programming. What is the meaning of OOP or object-oriented programming? Object-oriented programming is a computer programming model or paradigm, and it is used to organize software design around data or objects rather than functions and logic. You can create a template and you can create as many instances with different information based on the same template. You can create a class as a form, and based on that class you can create as many objects as you wish with different information for properties and behaviors. And this will increase the coding productivity. In addition to this will increase the coding reusability. So if you wanna create a template and you can create as many instances as you wish based on that template, you can use object-oriented programming. This will save your precious time and you can make programs with the Python programming language or in any object-oriented programming language faster and easier. And by using object-oriented programming, you can reuse the same block of code for many times instead of typing the same code or instead of repeating yourself. And this will apply the dry concept, don't repeat yourself. So by using inheritance in the object-oriented programming, you can create a template, for example, called vehicle. And based on that template, you can create other templates. You can inherit all the methods and attributes for properties and behaviors from the vehicle class to car class, bus class, and bike class. And you can do that for many classes in the Python programming language or in any object-oriented programming language. By using object-oriented programming models and paradigms, complex things and programs will be reproducible with a simple structure for your programs, and this will make the object-oriented programming applications secure, and this will protect the information through encapsulation and by applying many concepts in object-oriented programming. By using the object-oriented programming concepts, you can use the same block of code to do many things or for many purposes, and this is called polymorphism in the object-oriented concept, having many forms for the same block of code. And this will make the Python code for any programs easy to maintain and debug after completing the whole program. That's all about it. In this course, I'm gonna show you all these concepts practically. Thank you so much for watching. Why do you use the Python programming language in this course? There are many reasons for using the Python programming language. The Python programming language is so popular with developers, so there are many companies and platforms use the Python programming language to develop different types of applications. And this language opens up many opportunities for you in 2022. So it's very useful to know how to code with the Python programming language. Today, if you have no knowledge of the Python programming language, you can learn this language quickly because its syntax is very easy, and you can learn this language and use it quickly in no time. In addition to, this language is free to use. It's an open source language, so you can download the install launcher for this language and install it locally on your device. Whatever the operating system you are using, Python is a cross-platform language, so this language is free and easy to use, and you can start developing Python applications today. And if you have only the basic syntax of the Python programming language, from this course you will learn how to develop object-oriented programming applications with this language quickly and efficiently, and this will increase the productivity. There are many supportive communities for the Python programming language because this language is so popular, and if you have any problems or errors for your programs with this language, you can get the solution easily from many communities. Nowadays, this language is supported by many companies. Nowadays, you'll find hundreds of Python libraries and frameworks for different fields, such as big data, machine learning, backend or server-side, cloud computing, automation, and many other areas. Because the best things about the Python programming language are versatility, efficiency, reliability, and the speed of this language. Python programming language can be used in many varieties of environments such as mobile applications, desktop applications, web development, hardware programming, and many more. So this will opens up many opportunities for you. Python is very useful and really worth learning in 2022. Thank you so much for watching. See you again next lesson. Hello and welcome to this lesson about the object-oriented programming alternatives. Here is a quick look at the most popular types of programming. The first alternative is the procedural programming, and this type of programming can be defined as a programming model or paradigm which is derived from structured programming. In the procedural programming, you type sequences of instructions or sets of instructions to be executed. This alternative involves writing down a set or a list of instructions or procedures to tell the computer what it should do step by step to finish the task at hand. That's all about it. In addition to, this type of programming is used for small tasks and it has lack of security. The second type of programming, or our second alternative for object-oriented programming, is functional programming. Functional programming also is a computer model or a programming paradigm where programs and softwares are constructed by applying and composing functions. By using functional programming, we try to bend everything in pure mathematical functions styles. Among of the types of programming languages that use this paradigm or functional programming are Erlang and Scala. For instance, the types of applications that this type of programming is used for are telecommunications and fault-tolerant applications. The last alternative we have here for object-oriented programming is structured programming. Structured programming is a computer model or a programming paradigm, and it is used to improve the clarity, quality, and development time of a computer program. So the question here is, how can that be done? Simply, that can be done by making extensive use of the structured control flow constructs of selection and repetition, block structures, and subroutines. In the structured programming, you write a program with only the structured programming constructions. The first one sequence, the second one repetition, and the third one which is selection. Examples of languages that use this type of programming are PHP and C#. This was a brief overview of the most popular alternatives for object-oriented programming. Thank you so much for watching. See you again next lesson. Hello and welcome to this lesson about the meaning of a class in the Python programming language. Python is an object-oriented programming language, and everything in the Python programming language is considered an object. So what is the meaning of a class? A class is a simple data type or a data structure defined by a user. You can define a class in the Python programming language easily by using a reserved keyword or a predefined keyword from the Python library. You can define a class and create it as a template by yourself. It's blueprint for creating objects, and you can create as many objects as you wish based on the same class. You can create a class as a template or as a code form, and you can fill out that form with different information for properties and also behaviors by creating many objects. Each object you create based on the same class uses an instance of that class. As we said before, you can have many instances based on a single class by creating many objects. After creating the full body of a class in the Python programming language, you can create many objects and assign many instances to them. Create a single object and assign a single instance of that class to it. So how can we define a class in the Python programming language? This is a very easy process. You can define a class by using the class keyword. The class keyword at the beginning of the class header, followed by the descriptive name for that class, and follow the rules for naming variables in the Python programming language to name any class. By convention, in the Python programming language, we start the class name with uppercase letter. And here is the syntax of a class in the Python programming language. You can see the reserved keyword comes first at the beginning of that class to define it, followed by the name, which is name in this case. This is a simple syntax. You put a name for that class, a descriptive and meaningful name instead of the word name here, and a colon to mark the end of the class header. And once you hit enter or return after that colon, the body of that class will be started by using 4 white spaces automatically, or you can use any number of spaces you wish. Python recognizes any block of code by using white spaces, and inside the body of that class you can put any Python code, attributes, methods, and so on. And here is an example, the class called the player. The class keyword to define the player class, and a colon to mark the end of that header, and inside the indented body of that class we have a statement, the pass statement, to pass that class without getting any errors, because that class is empty here. So instead of getting errors in the output because that class is empty, type the pass statement here to pass that class and to create objects based on it without getting errors in the output. That's all about it. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Thank you so much for watching. See you again next lesson. Hello and welcome to this lesson. In this lesson we will talk about instances based on a class in the Python programming language, or objects based on a template or a class. So what is the meaning of object instantiation in object-oriented programming? Instantiate an object just means to create it based on a class. So object instantiation is about creating objects based on the same class. So you can say that it's object instantiation or object construction. Based on the same template or the same class, you can create as many instances as you wish. An instance is just an object based on the same class. Say that class is a template or our main form or blueprint, and you can fill out that form with different information for each object or each instance. And here is the syntax, a simple syntax for that. The class keyword to define the player class. This is a simple syntax for instantiating object or creating an instance based on a template or a class. That template in this example is the player class. Follow the rules for naming variables to give a name for that class. And you can see it starts with uppercase P. And inside it you can put attributes, methods, or any Python statements you need here inside the indented body of that class. Python recognizes any block of code by using white spaces, so the class body is indented. After leaving out that body of that class, after completing the full body of that class, you can see we have an object called O1, and we assign an instance to it. This instance of the player class, you can see with round braces, assign it by using single equal sign to that object, and to name that object just also follow the rules for naming variables to name any object in the Python programming language. And you can create as many objects as you wish. You can create 2 objects, O1 and O2, or you can call them any name as you wish. You can create 3 objects, 4 objects with different information based on the class you create. That's all about it. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Thank you so much for watching. See you again next lesson. Hello and welcome to this lesson. What are attributes? What is the meaning of an attribute in the Python programming language or in object-oriented programming? Attribute is a normal variable inside the body of a class. Suppose you want to define properties for objects based on a class, and to do that we need to create attributes inside the indented body to define the properties of objects. So an attribute is a normal variable, and you can define it or declare it as we declare any normal variable but within the body of a class in the Python programming language. And there are two types of attributes. The first type is called class attribute and the second type is called instance attribute. What is the meaning of them and what is the difference between them? What is the meaning of class attributes and instance attributes? The class attribute in the Python programming language is a variable that is shared between all the objects of the class. Within the body of a class in the Python programming language, if you have a normal variable that is shared between all the objects of the class to define a property for all the objects of that class, this is called class attribute. And the meaning of instance attribute is about creating a variable or normal variable inside the constructor method. The constructor method is called the dunder_init method in the Python programming language. Inside the constructor method, we define or declare instance attributes with the self parameter. So what is the meaning of the self parameter? Self parameter is a reference for the current instance, and to access all the instance attributes or the values for instance attributes from inside the constructor method, we use the self parameter, and you can call it any name as you wish, but by convention we call it self. So try to call it self, and I'll show you that practically, so don't worry about that. That's all about the meaning of class attribute inside the indented body of a class and outside the constructor method, and the instance attribute inside the constructor method or the dunder_init method. Thank you so much for watching. See you again next lesson. Hello and welcome to this lesson about the class constructor in object-oriented programming. In the Python programming language, we use the dunder_init method as a class constructor. Instead of calling it __init__, we call it dunder_init. This is a very simple name for that. So what is the meaning of this init or initialize method? This method or this keyword is a reserved keyword or a reserved method in Python classes. And this method is known as a constructor in object-oriented concepts. So what is the purpose of using the dunder_init? This method called when an object is created from the class, and it allows the class to initialize the attributes of a class. So if you want to set properties for objects based on a class in the Python programming language, you need to use the constructor method, the dunder_init method, and inside it you can initialize instance attributes. The init method or the dunder_init method is similar to constructors in C++ and Java. Constructors are used to initialize the object state, and the main target of using constructors is to initialize or assign values to the data members of the class when an object of a class is created. That's all about it simply. Like methods, a constructor also contains collection of Python statements or instructions. And the first parameter for the constructor method or the dunder_init method is the self parameter by convention, and you can call it any name you wish, but by convention we name it self. This is to access attributes and methods, but the self parameter is a reference for the current instance you create, and for that current instance you need to use this keyword to access the instance attributes or this instance attributes from inside the constructor method or the dunder_init method. And here is a simple example or a simple syntax for constructor in the Python programming language. You can see the class keyword to define this player class. This is the class header that ends with a simple colon. After hitting enter or return, you can start the body of that class. The body is indented by using 4 white spaces. You can see we have an attribute, class attribute, then the dunder_init method on the same level inside the indented body of that class. The class attribute is called team name. This attribute is shared by all the instances or by all the objects based on the same class called the player here, and its value is team or 2022, and you can see the dunder_init method. Let's take a look at this dunder_init method here. Our class constructor, the player constructor here, the def keyword to define it using the reserved keyword called init underscore underscore init underscore underscore, and the self parameter is the first parameter here. So the self parameter here is a reference for any instance you create based on the same class. Say we create an object called o1, so o1.name equals name, o1.age equals the value of age. So to access the values for this object here based on this constructor, you need to use the self parameter. So if you wanna replace the self parameter with another name, you can call it any name you wish, but by convention we call it self. And the second parameter is name, and the third parameter is age. So you can see inside the indented body of that constructor, self.name equals name, self.age equals age. The self parameter here is a reference for the current instance you create based on the same template. That's all about it. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Thank you so much for watching. See you again next lesson. Hello and welcome to this lesson about methods in object-oriented programming. So let's get started. A method is a normal function but within the body of the class in the Python programming language. So any function inside the indented body of a class, we call it method. So it's very simple. To define it, you need to use the def keyword, and this will define the behavior of objects based on the same class. If you want to set behaviors for objects based on the same class, you need to use methods. And also the constructor function is called the constructor method, because this method within the body of a class in the Python programming language. And here is a simple example for that. You can see the class keyword to define the player class, then the class attribute called team name and its value. After that, the constructor method. It's a normal function, but this is the constructor function for that class with the self parameter here. You can define it. You need to define it by using the def keyword at the beginning in the function header, and it is called the constructor method. And a method is used to define or to perform action, series of related statements or block of code to perform actions inside the indented body of the player class also. And after the dunder_init method, we have a method called displayInfo, and this is to perform an action or to display information on the screen. Define it by using the def keyword followed by the name of that method or that function. This is called a method because it is inside the body of class, the class called the player here, and inside the indented body of the displayInfo method, the return statement to return the name player has age years old, the value of age, then years old. The function will return this string back to the caller with the value of name and the value of age once you create objects based on the class called the player. That's all about it about methods. Methods are normal functions within the body of class in the Python programming language. Thank you so much for watching. Welcome back. As we said previously, you can create many objects based on the same class. A class is our main form, and you can fill out that main form with different information, and this is by using multiple objects or instances based on the same class or the same form. And here is an example for that. We have an example here, class called player. And you can see the body is indented by using white spaces for that class. And it has a class attribute called team name, followed by the class constructor, which is the dunder_init method with 3 parameters. Self, this is a reference for the current instance you create based on the same class. Then name and age parameters. Self.name equals name, self.age equals age. This is inside the constructor body, and these are called instance attributes inside the constructor body. After that, and inside the class body also, we have a method called displayInfo method. By using the diff keyword, you can define it, and this function or method will return this string back to the caller. This player class is considered the main form or the main template here, and we have multiple objects here based on the same class with different information for name and age. The first object is called player01, and its value is an instance of the player class, and a value for the name parameter or the name variable, and another value for the age parameter or the age variable. And the reference for this current instance or this current object is the self parameter. So in this case, instead of saying self.name equals name, here player01.name equals player01, and the player01.age equals 25. The self parameter is a reference for the current instance, and the same thing for the player02 object. This is the second object, and its value also is an instance of the player class, and another value for the name parameter, and another value for the age parameter or the age variable. And in this case, the reference for this current instance is the self parameter. So instead of saying self.name equals name, say player02.name equals player02, player02.age equals 27. And after that, you can see the print function to print out player01.age to access the value of age based on the player01 object. You can access the values for attributes by using objects, exactly as in this example here. This will give you 25, the value of age based on the player01 object is 25. And you can do the same thing for the name parameter. Based on the player01 object, you can access the value of the name parameter, which is the player01. In this case, this is the value of the name parameter for the object player01. And you can do the same thing for the player02 object. You can use the print function to print out player02.age or player02.name. The value of age for the second object called the player02 is 27, not 25. This is a simple overview about how to create multiple objects based on the same class. A simple class here, and we have two objects based on the same class with different information. Thank you so much for watching. See you again next lesson. Hello and welcome to this lesson about creating a class in the Python programming language practically. In this lesson, I will show you how to create a class called Snake as blueprint for creating objects based on that class. You can create a class in the Python programming language by using the class keyword. The class keyword is a reserved keyword in the Python programming language. You can use it to define any class, and after that try to use a descriptive name or a meaningful name that describes what is inside that class. The class name in this example here is Snake, and follow the rules for naming variables to name any class. Try to start the class name with uppercase letter, as in S for Snake in this example here. We start the class name using uppercase letter by convention, and to mark the end of the class header use a colon, and after that you can hit enter or return to start the body of that class. You will see the body is indented by using 4 white spaces automatically here. Python recognizes any block of code by using white spaces. So the block of code, this block of code is indented, and this block of code for the snake class. And because this class is empty, you can use a statement or a keyword from the Python library called the pass statement. The pass statement is used to pass this class without getting errors, because this class doesn't contain anything here. The snake class is empty, so to avoid getting errors because this class is empty, try to use the pass statement here. After that, after leaving out the body of that class, you can create as many instances as you wish. An object is a normal variable outside of that class. You can create a normal variable outside of that class by using any descriptive or meaningful name and assign an instance of that class to that object by using single equal sign. And to clarify that, we are gonna create a simple object called snake01 based on this class called snake. This is an instance based on that class. You can see we have an instance and we assign it to this variable or this object called snake01 by using single equal sign. This is simply called object instantiation. We instantiate the snake class here by using this simple assignment statement here. If you want to print out the snake01 on the screen by using the print function, you will get the snake object at reference number in the memory. The print function is a built-in function in the Python programming language. You don't need to design this function from the ground up. All what you need to do is calling it only by using its name. Just the print name followed by round braces, and place all the arguments or all the values inside those round braces for the print function. And it has a single argument in this example here, and this argument or this value is the snake01 object. This is the object name based on the snake class. If you try to hit the run button from here, simply you will get this output as we said before. You can see the snake object at this reference number here in the output. That's it, simply. And if you want to make your code more descriptive and meaningful, use comments to describe what is inside your code. You can use the docstrings at the beginning of any class body to put a description or an explanation about this class, and this docstring describes what is the purpose of using this class simply, or a simple hint about the snake class. And you can see in this example here the docstring followed by the pass statement, all that inside the indented body of the snake class. And you can put a comment, a single line comment before this instantiation or this assignment statement here, and another comment here before the print function. You can use single line comments by using the hash symbol to put a description or an explanation about your code, as in this example here, objects based on snake, and simply below this comment you can create as many objects as you wish based on the snake class. And don't worry about all of that. We are gonna create many classes in this course with many objects based on those classes. And you can see below the printing on screen comment, the print function to print out this object on the screen. And if you try to hit the run button again, you will get the same output, because comments are for human readability only, not for the program execution. The program will not execute any comment, and you will see nothing for those comments in the output here. That's all about it. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Thank you so much for watching. See you again next lesson. We have a simple class here, an empty class called snake, and we wanna put an attribute inside the indented body of that class called snake. You can do that simply. You can put a normal variable within the body of the snake class without any complication. Instead of using the pass statement to pass this snake class, or to avoid getting errors because the snake class is empty, you can put a simple attribute or a class attribute called name and assign a value to it. This value in this example here is anaconda string, collection of characters in between double quotes. By using single equal sign, you can assign this value to this special variable called name, exactly as you can see. This is about setting an attribute called name of the class called snake simply. After that, you can create as many instances as you wish based on the same class, and you can use the object name called snake01 to access this value for this attribute simply by using the attribute name here, because this object here or this instance based on the snake class, you can access anything from the snake class by using this object. All what you need to do is using the dot notation followed by the name of that variable or that attribute, snake01 dot name, inside the round braces of the print function. This is the argument for the print function. The print function will take this input and will print the output on the screen once you hit the run button. You will get the anaconda string on the screen once you hit the run button from over here. Exactly as you can see, we have anaconda in the output here inside the integrated terminal. That's it, simply about putting or setting an attribute or a class attribute inside the indented body of the snake class or in any class, and follow the rules for naming variables to give a name for any class attribute exactly as in this example here, and you can change this value to any value as you wish. Also, you can create as many objects as you wish based on the same class called snake, and you can use the print function to print out the value of the name variable or the name attribute by using any object you create based on the snake class. Thank you so much for watching. See you again next lesson. Within a class body in the Python programming language, you can define a function, and this function is called a method. A method is a normal or a user-defined function, but it's inside the body of the snake class or inside the body of any class. This is in object-oriented programming. You can define a method here inside the indented body of the class called snake to do something or to perform an action. Say we want to change the name, the value of the name attribute from here. So after that, you can create a method to do that. To define user-defined function in the Python programming language, you need to use the def keyword followed by the name. And for naming functions in the Python programming language, follow the rules for naming variables. Try to make the function name more descriptive and describes what is the purpose of using this function. Exactly as in this example here, this function is called modify name, and you can call it, for example, anything else. You can call it changing name or anything you wish. And this function has two parameters here in the function header inside the round braces. The first one is the self parameter here. The self parameter is a reference for the current instance you create based on the snake class. And the second one is the new name, and this is to change the value of the name attribute. So the new value will be passed here inside the indented body of the modify name method. You can see self.name equals new name. Say we have an object called o1 based on the class called snake. So o1.name will be equals the value of name or the new value of this name attribute simply. After defining this method inside the indented body of the snake template or the snake class, you can create as many objects as you wish based on the same class called snake. We have a simple object here, a simple instance for the snake class, and this object based on the snake class. If you try to use the run button here, you will get anaconda in the output. This is the old value for the name attribute here, anaconda. So we got anaconda in the integrated terminal. Now you can use the modify name function or method to modify this name or to put a new name for the attribute called name here. To modify the value of the name attribute, simply you need to call the modify name method from inside the snake class, and based on this instance or this object you can use the dot notation here to access anything from inside the snake class. So we call the modify name method by using this snake01 object here we create, and you can call this snake01 any valid name you wish in the Python programming language, and you can create as many instances as you wish here. You can modify the value of the name attribute many times, and the new value for the attribute called name is Python. Python is the value of the new name here. This value will be passed in this position here. So snake01.name equals Python in this case for this object called snake01 here. The self parameter is a reference for the current instance. The current instance is the snake01 object here. After that, you can use the print function to print out snake01.name to access the new name, which is Python. The print function is used to print out snake01.name, the object name followed by the dot notation followed by the attribute name, which is name in this example here, because new name, the value or the new value for new name equals name here, and the self parameter, as we said before, is a reference for the current instance, which is snake01 here. So we have two print functions here. The print function here to print the old value, which is anaconda, and another print function to print out the new value for the name attribute after this changing, after setting this new value, which is Python. So once you run this Python file by using this run button from here, you will get the output on the screen, which is anaconda for the first print function from here, and Python. This is the new value after changing or modifying the name attribute. That's it simply about changing the attribute values by using a method here. This is a simple method inside the snake class to perform something or to perform an action. This modify name method is used to change the value of the name attribute. Thank you so much for watching. See you again next lesson. Hello and welcome to this lesson. In this lesson I will show you how to use the dunder init method inside the snake class simply. Inside the indented body of the snake class, you can define the dunder init method or this class constructor by using the def keyword. And after this def keyword, use underscore underscore init underscore underscore, and this is called dunder instead of saying this complex name. So this dunder init or this constructor has two parameters here. The first parameter is the self parameter. This self parameter is a reference for the current instance, and it is used to access the values for instance attributes. And you can see inside the indented body of the dunder init method we have a simple instance attribute. You can see it is called name, and the value of name equals name, and the self parameter here the reference for the current instance or any instance we create based on the snake class, and the self parameter here is used to access values or variables from inside this dunder init method or this constructor here. Inside the indented body of the snake class also, and after defining the dunder init method, we need to create another method to perform an action. This action is modifying or changing the value of the name instance attribute. This is called an instance attribute here inside the constructor method body, and after that we need to create a method, and this method in this example here we call it modify name method. The def keyword followed by the name of that function or that method, and it has two parameters here. The self parameter is the reference for the current instance, and it is used to access attributes and values for the current instance, and the second parameter is the new name. This is to set a new name for the name instance attribute here, as you can see, And after that, after typing self.name equals new name inside the indented body of the modify name method, you can create as many instances as you wish based on the snake class. Say we want to create two variables or two objects with different information for the name instance attribute here inside the snake class, inside the indented body of the dunder_init method. Create the first object based on the snake class, and it is called anaconda01. We call it this descriptive name, or you can call it anything else. You can name this variable or this object anything instead of calling it anaconda01. Follow the rules for naming variables here. And its value is an instance of the snake class. This instance contains this value here. This is a simple argument inside the round braces of the snake class instance, exactly as you can see. This value anaconda will be passed inside the indented body of the snake class. So anaconda01.name equals anaconda here. And after that, to print out the value of the name attribute or instance attribute, which is anaconda, you need to use the print function. But before using the print function, let's create another instance with another value for the name instance attribute. The second object or the second instance, try to call it python01 and assign another instance of the snake class to it. And the new value or the new argument for the snake instance or the snake class in this example here is Python. This string will be passed inside the indented body of the snake class also as a new value for the name attribute. So Python01 self parameter is a reference for the current instance, which is Python01 in this example here. Python01.name equals Python in this example here. So we want to access the value of the name instance attribute based on this instance or this object, and also this instance or this object simply. So you can use the print function to do that. Simply try to put single line comments here to make this code more descriptive and to explain what is inside this code. By using the print function, you can print any data type on the screen or the result for operation on the screen. And the print function in this example will print out the value of name after setting a value for the name instance attribute here based on this instance or this object called anaconda01. And you can create as many instances as you wish, and try to put the instance name here or the object name followed by the dot notation, and after this dot notation you can access anything from inside the snake class. This is an object based on the snake class, instance of the snake class. So this will give you on the screen anaconda, the value of the name instance attribute here based on this instance. And you can do the same thing for the second instance here. For the second instance, the value of the name is different. The value of the name instance attribute is Python instead of anaconda. So as we did before for the anaconda01, so let's do the same thing for the second instance or the second object, which is Python01. Put Python01.name as an argument or as a value for the print function inside the round braces of the print function. That's all about it. Now we need to execute this Python file or this Python script. To run this Python file, go to here and hit the run button, and you will get the output on the screen. Voila, we got anaconda for the first instance to access the value of the name attribute or instance attribute, and this is the value we type here, and the second value based on the second instance we type here. You can replace this value and this value also if you wish, and you will get the output on the screen. The print function will print out the output on the screen exactly as we did in this example here. That's all about it. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Thank you so much for watching. See you again next lesson. Hello and welcome to this lesson. In this lesson, we will take our second example to apply all the classes and objects concepts in object-oriented programming with the Python programming language. So let's get started. As you know previously, to define a class in the Python programming language, you need to use the class keyword followed by the name, and the class name in this example here in this lesson is the person class. This is the class name. Start this class with uppercase letter, uppercase P, exactly as you can see, and you can name this class any valid name in the Python programming language, and as we said before, try to make the name more descriptive and describes what is the purpose of using that class. Inside the indented body of the person class, create a docstring to describe this template or this class. You can type any description you wish. Put a hint inside triple quotes. Person main class in this example here. And after this docstring and inside the indented body of that class also we have the constructor method, the init method. Define it by using the def keyword, and it has 4 parameters exactly as you can see. The first one is the self parameter, a reference for the current instance. Then the name parameter, the age parameter, and the person ID parameter. And you can put any number of parameters you wish inside the round braces of the init method. And you can see the instance attributes here inside the indented body of the init method. We have self.name equals name, self.age equals age, self.person ID equals person ID. Say our current instance is 01. 01.name equals the value of the name parameter that will be inserted in this position here. Then the value of 01.age equals 01, for example, and the same thing for the person ID attribute here, instance attribute inside the indented body of the init method. Now after leaving out the body of the person class, you can create as many objects or as many instances as you wish based on this main template or this person class. This is our main form, and you can fill out this main form with different information. So let's do that. To create an object in the Python programming language, just declare it as any normal variable, and you can name it any valid name in the Python programming language. Try to make the variable name more descriptive and meaningful. And the object name in this example is the person ID, exactly as you can see here, single equal sign to assign this instance of the person class to this object or this variable here. And you can see we have 3 values for these 3 parameters here. The first one Ahmad for the name parameter, then 29 as a value for the age parameter, and 120 as a value for the person ID. These value will be passed inside the indented body of the init method. So for this object here, person 01.name equals Ahmad, person 01.age equals 29, and for the last instance attribute, person 01.person ID equals this ID 120. This is for this object, and you can create as many objects as you wish with different information. You can replace Ahmad with Ronaldo, Marcelo, or any name as you wish, and you can also change the values of age and person ID. And if you want to access any value from these values, you can do that easily. To print out or to access any value from these values, or name or age or the person ID parameter or instance attribute, you can use the print function, and inside the round braces of the print function, put the object name followed by the dot notation, and after that dot notation you can access any instance attribute from inside the person class. Simply exactly as you can see here, person 01.name, then person 01.age, and the last one person 01.person ID. This will give you Ahmad for this current instance for the person 01 object, and if you wanna create another object instead of person 01, you can do that and put its name here, followed by the dot notation, followed by the instance attribute name. For instance, if we have another instance attribute here, use the object name followed by the dot notation followed by the new name for the new instance attribute. You can see person01.age, this will give you 29, and the last one person01.personid will give you this value or any value you insert here. This value will be passed here, then in this position here, and the current instance is person01, so person01.personid equals 120 as we said before. Now to show the output for these values, you need to hit the run button from here. So let's run this Python file from here, and you will get the output inside the integrated terminal without any complication. Voila, we got Ahmad 29 and the last one 120 for this last statement here to print out the output for this operation here. That's all about it. Thank you so much for watching. See you again next lesson. Welcome back. We have a class here called person, the docstring, then the constructor of this class, and it has 3 instance attributes here, name, age, and person ID. And we create an instance or an object based on that class here. And the value of name for this instance is Ahmad, the value of age is 29, and the value of person ID is 120. And the print function to print out the value of name, age, and person ID for this object here. The information we insert inside the rounded braces of this instance for the person class. As we said before, you can create as many objects as you wish. So let's do that. After the person01 object, let's create another one, and the second object is called person02, and assign an instance of the person class to this object by using single equal sign. And the new values are Ronaldo for name, 35 for age, and the value for the person ID for this instance or this object is 130. All that inside the rounded braces here for this instance based on the person class. This is an instance of the person class, and separate between the values using comma as we did before for the first instance. And you can create another one called person3. After the person02 object, create another one, and it is called person03. And as we said before, you can name it any valid name in the Python programming language, but try to make the object name more descriptive and meaningful, and follow the rules for naming variables to give a name for any object. This is like any normal variable, it's a variable. And the value of the person03 object in this example is an instance of the person class or the main form. And as we said before, you can fill out that form with different information, exactly as you can see in this example here. We have the main form called person, and we have different information based on different instances we create based on the person class. And you can see the value of the name parameter here is Marcelo. This value will be passed in this position, then in this position here. 33 is a new value for the name parameter based on the third object we have here, and the third parameter or the third value is 125. This instance has 3 arguments here. An argument is a value for a parameter, and if you want to access any value from these values, you can simply use this method here, the print function, and inside the rounded braces of the print function just use the object name followed by the dot notation, and you can access any attribute or instance attribute from the person class by using its name. Simply let's do that for person02 and person03 exactly as we did before with this person01 object. You can see in this example here, this will give you information, and this will give you different information, and this also for the person03 object will give you different information for the same instance attributes here. Different values will be passed here, will be inserted inside the indented body of the person class, then will be inserted inside the indented body of the init method, the class constructor. So let's execute the Python file to show the output for these operations. You can see based on the first instance or the first object person01, we got these values here in the output inside the integrated terminal, and also these values based on the person02, the second object, with different information, Ronaldo 35 and 130. And you can see the same thing with different information based on the person03 object. You can create as many instances as you wish, and the self parameter is a reference for the current instance. So for example, if you try to create another instance or another object based on the same class, and this object is called person04 for example, the self parameter will be a reference for the current instance, which is person04, and person04.name equals the value of name for person04, and the same thing for age and person ID. That's all about it. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Thank you so much for watching. See you again next lesson. Previously we have created a class called person, and inside the indented body of that person class we have a docstring, then the constructor with 3 instance attributes exactly as you can see, and we have created 3 variables or 3 objects based on the same template based on the person class with different information. And in this lesson I will show you how to create a method to perform an action here inside the indented body of the person class. Also, you can do that easily. You can define that function by using the def keyword. Use the def keyword to define this user defined function followed by the name, or this method name is display data. You can put any descriptive name for that function or this method here. This is a normal function inside the person class, and it is called a method or class method. And this display data method has a single parameter, which is the self parameter, to access all the instance attributes from inside the init method. By using this self parameter, we can access name, age and person ID for the current instance. And inside the indented body of the display data method, we have the print function to display a message on the screen. Hi, my name is, followed by self.name, followed by my age is string, then self.age, and my person ID is, and the value of person ID for the current instance. Say the current instance is person01 here, so person01, the value of name for the person01 is Ahmad. Hi, my name is Ahmad, my age is 29, and my person ID is 120. So after creating this method or this user defined function inside the person ID body here, you can call this method by using an instance or an object. For example, we have created 3 objects here: person01, person02, person03. You can use any object from these objects to call this method here from inside the person class. Let's use the first object called person01. To call the display data method from inside the person class, use the instance name or the object name followed by the dot notation, and after that notation put the calling of the display data method. Just use its name followed by empty round braces, exactly as you can see here. This is an instance. This is called calling the display data method simply based on this instance here. And if you try to call it for person02, you will get different information. Now we need to execute this Python file. Hit the run button from here, and you will get the output on the integrated terminal here. Voila, we got this output exactly as you can see. Hi, my name is Ahmad. This is the value of the name attribute here, or this name parameter, and this value will be inserted inside the indented body of the init method here. So person01.name equals this value for the current instance. The current instance or the current object is person01, so we got Ahmad, then 29 for this instance also, and the same thing for the third parameter, which is 120 from here, and we got this value in the output. This is the full message or the full output for this current instance, and you can call this method for many times to get different information based on different instances based on the person class. So simply to clarify these concepts, let's call the display data method based on the person02 object, and the same thing for the third instance or the third object based on the person class, which is person03. So you can see here person02 to display data, person03, and the calling of the display data method on the screen. This will give you information based on these values, and this calling will give you different information based on the person02 object from here, and this will give you different information based on these values. These values will be inserted here inside the indented body of the person class, then here inside the indented body of the display data method. So for example, for the person03 object, you will get, hi, my name is Marcelo, then my age is 33, then and my person ID is 125. Hit the run button from here to get the output. Voila, we got this output exactly as we said before. Hi, my name is Ahmad, my age is 29, and my person ID is 120. This is for the first instance, and this is for the second instance, and for the last instance or the last object called person03, this is the output. Hi, my name is Marcelo, my age is 33, and my person ID is 125. That's all about it simply. Thank you so much for watching. See you again next lesson. Welcome back. Inheritance in object-oriented programming is a very important concept. Inheritance in Python programming is the concept of deriving a new class from an existing class. You create a class that inherits all the methods and attributes from another class. We create a child class that inherits all the methods or behaviors and attributes or properties from the parent class. The new derived class is called the child class, and the existing class or the main class is called the parent class or the superclass. So why do we use inheritance? Inheritance will improve the code reusability. It improves code reusability, so we don't need to write the same block of code or the same code again and again. By using inheritance, we can inherit the features of other classes and also add more features to the derived class or to the child class. Also, using inheritance reduces the programmer's efforts. Programmers don't need to write the same code and logic, so this will enhance and increase the productivity for programmers, and it reduces the efforts of programmers and developers. Also, this will make your code organized and readable. By implementing concepts of inheritance, the program looks more concise, short, and structured, which makes it easy to read and understand for any programmer or any developer. This way, inheritance also improves the readability of code. This is about the features of using inheritance in object-oriented programming. And don't worry about all these concepts. This is theoretically. I'll show you how to use inheritance in object-oriented programming with the Python programming language practically in this course. Thank you so much for watching. See you again next lesson. Hello and welcome to this lesson about applying inheritance in object-oriented programming with the Python programming language. Inheritance in object-oriented programming is an important aspect, a very important concept, and the main purpose of using inheritance is the reusability of code, because we can use the existing class to create a new class instead of creating the same block of code from scratch. In inheritance, the child class acquires all the data members, properties, and methods from the parent class or the superclass. Also, a child class can also provide its specific implementation to the methods of the parent class. And in this section, I'll show you two types of inheritance with the Python programming language. The first type is called single inheritance, and the second type is called multiple inheritance. So in this lesson, let's start with the single inheritance. In single inheritance, simply a child class inherits from a single parent class. Let's get started by creating the parent class. It is called base class, parent class, or superclass. And this class is the vehicle class, declared by using the class keyword. The class keyword is a reserved keyword to define any class, and you know that from the previous lessons. And its name in this example is vehicle. This is the main template or the base class. And after creating that class, we are gonna create another class called child class, inherits from this single parent class we have here. And it has a single method to display data on the screen. This method inside the indented body of the vehicle class, and it is called vehicle data method, and you can call it or you can name it any valid name in the Python programming language as you wish, and follow the rules for naming variables. The def keyword followed by the name of that method, and the self parameter here is a reference for the current instance we are gonna create. The print function inside the indented body of the vehicle data method to print this message or this string on the screen, collection of characters in between double quotes, hello from the vehicle class. And you can put any data type here inside the round braces of the print function to display it on the screen. The print function takes input from a user and displays the output or prints the output on the screen through the integrated terminal. Now we need to create another class based on that vehicle class. We are gonna create our child class, and it is called car. To create the car class, as you know, define that class by using the class keyword followed by the name of that class, and this is called the child class. And to inherit all the data members, methods, and attributes from the vehicle class, put its name here inside the round braces in the car class header, exactly as you can see, followed by a colon. And the indented body of the car class here contains a single method to display another message, which is hello from the car class. You can put any string here, sequence of characters. The print function will print this message on the screen. Now you can create as many instances as you wish based on the child class, and that child class acquires everything from the vehicle class. And to create an object based on the car class, simply you can do that like any variable in the Python programming language, and follow the rules for naming variables to give a name for any object. As you know, this object name is called car01. Use single equal sign to assign an instance of the car class to it, exactly as you can see here for this statement. This is called object instantiation, or you can say it's assignment statement here. This car class acquires all the data members from the vehicle class, so you can use the car class to access anything from the vehicle class. Now let's call the vehicle data method from here, from inside the vehicle class, by using this child class here, because this child class acquires everything from the vehicle class. All what you need to do is using the object name followed by the dot notation, and after the dot notation you can call the vehicle data method from the vehicle class. And the car01 object is an object based on the car class, and the car class inherits all the data members from the vehicle class, so you can use car01 to access anything from the vehicle class based on the car class. exactly as you can see here. Car O1, the object name, or any object you create based on the car class, and you can create as many objects or instances as you wish. Any number of instances based on what you need here in this program, followed by the dot notation, followed by the calling of the vehicle data method here from inside the vehicle class simply. And this will give you this message on the screen. The print function will print hello from the vehicle class message, and you can do the same thing for this class here to display this message hello from the car class. You can use the same object to access anything from the car class or the vehicle class. All what you need to do is using the object name, also followed by the dot notation, followed by the calling of the car data method from inside the car class, exactly as you can see here. So we have called this method based on this object based on the car class, and this car class based on the vehicle class, and also the car data method we called it from inside the car class by using this object name. Now, to show the output on the screen, you need to hit the run button to execute this Python file, and you will see the output inside the integrated terminal. Voila, we got this output exactly as you can see. For this statement here, the output is hello from the vehicle class, and for the next one, the output is hello from the car class. That's it simply, and you can create as many objects as you wish. You can create another object called car O2, and you can call the vehicle data method or any method, and you can use it by using this car child class exactly as we did in this example here. Assign an instance to this object, and after that you can call anything from the child class, or you can access anything from the child class or the vehicle class or the parent class by using the child class. So in a nutshell, the child class inherits all the methods, data members, properties, and everything from the parent class. Thank you so much for watching. See you again next lesson. Previously we created this parent class called vehicle, and it has a method called vehicle data method to print this message on the screen. And after that we created another class. This class inherits all the methods and attributes from the vehicle class. This is called the child class. The car class is the child class, and the parent class here is the vehicle class. And this method acquires everything from inside it and everything from inside the vehicle class, because you can access anything from the vehicle class by using this child here called car. So you can create an instance or object based on the car class to access anything from the vehicle class, exactly as we did in this example here. And also you can call anything like any normal class by using the object name followed by anything or any data member or any method from the same class, which is car here, the car data method, to display this message on the screen, and the output for the first statement to call this vehicle data, and the second one for the second method, which is car data method from inside the car class. In this lesson, I'll show you how to create another child class based on the same parent class. You can do that also. You can create another class called bike based on the same vehicle class. And to create the bike class, all what you need to do is using the class keyword followed by the name, which is bike in this example. And in this example, put the parent class also inside the rounded braces after the class name directly. The parent class in this example is vehicle, also the same parent class for car, and it has a single method. This bike class has a single method which is called bike data to display another message on the screen. This message is hello from bike. It's a string also. You can use single quotes instead of using double quotes if you wish. The print function will print this message on the screen. Now it's possible to use the bike class or an instance of the bike class to access anything from that class or from the vehicle class. This child class acquires all the data members, methods, and attributes from the vehicle class also, because this is a child class based on the parent class, which is vehicle. So let's do that for the bike class also, as we did it previously for the car class. And to create an instance based on the bike class or an object based on the bike class, all what you need to do is creating another variable after car01. Exactly as you can see, bike01 equals bike. Assign an instance of the bike class to this object called bike01 and follow the rules for naming variables to give a name for that object. You can create as many objects as you wish based on the bike class also, as we did before for the car class. And by using this object based on the bike class, you can call the vehicle data method from inside the parent class, which is vehicle, and also you can use the same object, which is bike01, to call any method from its class, which is bike. In this example here, you can call this bike data method to display this message on the screen. So you will get the output for this instance or this object based on the first child class, and after that you will get the output for this instance bike01 based on the second child class, which is bike. Let's use the print function in between them to separate the two outputs. And to use the print function, all what you need to do is calling it only by using its name, and inside the round braces of the print function put an argument or a value or any data type as you wish. Exactly as you can see here, this is to separate the output for this operation and the output for this operation inside the integrated terminal. Now let's execute this Python file to show the output on the screen. Hit the run button. From here, voila, we got this output. This is for the first instance or the first object based on the first child class, and this is based on the second instance or the second object based on the second class. And we have a single parent class for the two child classes, exactly as you can see. That's all about it. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Thank you so much for watching. See you again next lesson. Hello and welcome to this lesson about applying multiple inheritance in object-oriented programming with the Python programming language. Simply, in multiple inheritance, one child class can inherit from multiple parent classes. That's it. Simply, you can create many parent classes and a single child class that inherits all the data members from multiple parent classes without any complication. So let's get started to see that practically. So in this lesson, our first parent class is called person, and to create it you need to use the class keyword followed by the name, which is person with uppercase P in this example, as you can see here, and the def keyword inside the indented body of the person class to define a method. This class has a single method, which is person data, or you can name it any valid name in the Python programming language, but try to make this name more descriptive and meaningful. And it has three parameters. The first one is the self parameter, which is a reference for the current instance. The second parameter is name, and the third parameter is age, to pass information into the body of that person data method we have here. So by calling that method called person data, you will get hello from the person class message on the screen or string, and the print function will print out this message, and after that it will print out the name is followed by the value of name that will be passed into the person data method, and the age is followed by the value of age. The value of age that will be passed also into the body of the person data method simply, and these commas here will be replaced with white spaces in the output. Single comma will be replaced with a single white space in the out. Now let's create the second parent class. And the second parent class is called company. And this company class, you can define it by using the class keyword followed by the name, which is company, by using uppercase letter C, and it has a single method also to display data on the screen. This method is used to perform another action. This action is displaying the company name and its location. This method name is company data, defined by using the def keyword inside the indented body of the company class. It has three parameters: self, reference for the current instance, then comp name or company name, and the third parameter, which is location, to pass information into the company data method body. And by calling this company data method, it will display welcome to the company. Then after that, it will display the company name is, followed by the value of comp name that will be passed into the company data method body, then and location is, followed by the value of location that will be inserted into the body of this method simply. After that, and by using multiple inheritance in object-oriented programming, you can create one child class based on these two classes we have here. You can create, for example, a child class called employee or any valid name as you wish to inherit all the methods from person and company classes, or you can inherit all the data members from these two classes without any complication. So let's do that. And to create the child class, as we did previously, you can create it by using the class keyword also, followed by the name, which is employee, and inside the rounded braces after the class name, put person and company, the two classes, the two parent classes we have here in this example, and separate between the two names using comma. And after that, the employee class, this child class, inherits all the methods, data members, and attributes from the person and company parent classes. That's it simply. Also, you can create as many classes as you wish by using the same way. You can use many parent classes and separate between them using commas in the child class header inside the rounded braces. And the employee class has a single method to display data for the employee. This method is called the employee data method, defined by using the def keyword, and it has three parameters to pass information into its body. The self parameter is a reference, and you can name it anything instead of self, but by convention we use the self keyword. So use self as a reference for the current object or instance, and salary to pass information into the salary variable inside the employee data method, then the skill parameter. And by calling this employee data method, it will give you welcome to the employee class, and after that the print function will give you salary is, followed by the value that will be inserted in this position here. So you will get salary is followed by salary, skill is followed by the skill, the value that will be passed also that will be inserted in this position here after this string. After that, you can create as many instances or as many objects as you wish based on the child class, and by using that object you can access anything from the employee class and also from the two previous classes, from these two parent classes here, because simply this is a child class based on these two parent classes here, so it acquires everything from these two classes. And to create an object based on the employee class, create a normal variable and call it, for example, emp01 or employee01 or any valid name or any descriptive name as you wish, Follow the rules for naming variables to name any object in the Python programming language, and assign an instance of the employee class to this object by using single equal sign. And after that, after using this statement, you can access or you can display or perform actions based on the employee class, based on this instance here. By using this object, you can access anything from the employee class and also from the two previous classes we have here, from these two parent classes, person and company. So let's call this method, and also this method with value for name, age, company, location, salary, and skill. By using the emp01 object, you can call the person data method from inside the person class. Also, you can call the company data method from the company parent class, and also you can access from the employee class this method called employee data method to display actions or to perform actions on the screen. You can see in this example here, to get data or to access the data on the screen, we use the object name based on this child class, and this child class acquires everything in person and company parent classes. So you can access anything from person, which is person data method from the parent class, then company data method from the company class, and employee data method from the employee class. Ronaldo is a value for name, 35 is a value for age. These values will be inserted here and here. The value of name will be inserted in this position, and the value of age will be inserted in this position. So you will get hello from the person class. The name is Ronaldo and the age is 35. And for this statement or this calling for the company data method from the parent class called person, ABCD is a value for the company name or the comp name parameter, and this value will be passed here, will be inserted in this position, and this location or any location we put here will be inserted in this position here. So for this statement here, you will get welcome to the company. The company name is ABCD and location is location 001. And for the last calling here, you will get welcome to the employee class. Salary is, and the value of salary, skill is, and the value of skill that will be inserted in this position here. Now you can hit the run button, or you can execute this Python file simply to show the output, or you can use the run button from here to show the output for this operation. Voila, we got this output simply. Hello from the person class, the name is Ronaldo and the age is 35, and so on. And you can separate between them using print function to print a message or anything in between them as you wish. Also, you can create as many instances as you wish based on the employee class with different information to access anything from the employee class or anything from the person or company class. And as we said before, you can create as many parent classes as you wish and separate between them using comma in the header of the child class, exactly as we did in this example for person and company. That's all about it. Thank you so much for watching. See you again next lesson.